Part 46. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 451. Chapter 451. You get what you wanted now. Yunchi Building. The large desk is backed by an almost transparent floor-to-ceiling glass, letting in light from an entire wall without any obstruction. Standing in front of the window, you can overlook the scenery of most of the city. This is the pinnacle of life. This is where he should work and is worthy of him. Luo Yuanhang held a goblet in his hand. There was a bright red liquid inside, and the bright colors were flowing in the cup. He smiled slightly, thinking about the past few months, as if he had had a big dream. He originally thought that by relying on his own efforts, he could build a career, reach the pinnacle of his life, and make everyone look up to him. But later, the company went bankrupt and he was debt collected, making him look like a lost dog. Yun Chugzio took him in and brought him into the company. He knew that she was just using him and would kick him away when she achieved her goal, so he made preparations early and laid out a big picture. Everyone thinks they are the one controlling the chessboard, but they don't know that they are just pawns in his game. Now, everything is over, success and fame are achieved. Only that old guy Yun Bokin refused to hand over the shares in his hands. Although he said that he forged an appointment order and bribed several small shareholders, and now he is in the highest position, if the shares cannot be obtained safely, my heart will always feel uneasy. The good thing is that now they are all in his own hands. Life or death, taking or snatching are all a matter of his words. There was a knock on the door, and then the secretary came in. Mr. Luo, Mrs. Yun, she. She hesitated a little, and then Luo Yuanhang saw Yao Ying who had walked in after her, and waved his hand. Get out. No one is allowed to come in without my order. Yes, in response, the secretary withdrew. The door was closed, and Yao Ying stood there without moving, just looking at him steadily. The sun shone from behind him, and his whole person was enveloped in a golden light, but he looked at it getting darker and darker, so dark that he couldn't even see his face clearly. Perhaps, she has never really seen him clearly, never really understood him, Yao Ying thought so. Sit down, he raised his hand, feeling quite proud. This kind of pride is difficult to conceal, and he doesn't want to conceal it. Now that he has achieved success and fame, everyone is under his control. He is the biggest winner. How can he not be proud and proud? However, his pride was particularly dazzling in Yao Ying's eyes. You have got what you wanted now, he looked around the office. It was very big and could accommodate 50 people. In fact, she didn't come in this office very often. After all, it used to be Yun Bokian's, but now it's completely different from before. Yeah, aren't you happy? Opening his arms, Luo Yuanhang said with a smile, look, how capable your son is. Now the entire Yun family is mine, and all the Yun family's properties will also be mine. Aren't you happy for your son? So, you can hurt your sister like this. Do you know that she is still in prison? Thinking of Yun Chugzio, I felt sad. After seeing her last time, she refused to see her again. I haven't seen her for a long time, and I don't know if she has suffered much in there. Sister, raising his eyebrows, Luo Yuanhang sneered, I remember correctly, you and my father only gave birth to one son, me. How can I have a sister? Although she doesn't have the same father as you, you are indeed both born to me. Of course she is your sister, Yao Ying said. She's not, Luo Yuanhang suddenly shouted, if she is my sister, why has she had a good life since she was a child and has everything she wants? Why can she have parents, while I have nothing? She is a wild child that no one wants to be laughed at. If she is my sister, how come she can live in luxury and stand upright in front of various public media and call you mom, while I can only wait for you to contact me? I can't take the initiative to contact you, and I can't even call you mom. Now you tell me she's my sister. Sorry, I don't have a sister, I've always been alone. She vented her anger in one breath, and Yao Ying was shocked. Unexpectedly, he had so much resentment and such big complaints in his heart. Voyage. Well, if you are here to persuade me now, don't say anything. You can go back and rest. He turned around and made it clear that he didn't want to hear what she said. Yao Ying pursed her lips and said, even if you don't regard her as your sister, can't you let her go for my sake? At least she saved your life. Help. She just wants to take advantage of me. With a cold snort, Luo Yuanhang squinted at the scenery outside and said, you, my dear daughter, can calculate people's hearts, but you are not inferior to others at all. It's just that she started early this time, and her attention was focused on that little kid Yun Chukian. Otherwise, I might be the one in jail now. This is not alarmist. Considering the little things Yun Chukian did, it is indeed a bit far-fetched to blame him. If the police insist on continuing to investigate, Yun Chuxiu will definitely push him out. He knew it all too well about the scapegoat. But now that you have won, can't you stop? Yao Ying said seriously. No, he said resolutely, okay, I don't want to hear a word of your words, and you don't want to say any more. No matter what, you are my mother. Since I have obtained these, I will not lose your share. Isn't it good that I can still enjoy your fine clothes and fine food, and your life as a rich and wealthy wife, and I won't have to look at that old man Yun Zongchen's face anymore. Voyage. By the way, I remember that you were very close to that old guy Yun Boqian's family before, so you must know their habits very well. He changed the topic and asked. Yao Ying was stunned for a moment. What are you going to do? You are so familiar with them, you should know where to start if you want to persuade people to agree to something. He has used threats and inducements, but Yun Boqian refuses to accept this trick and refuses to agree to sign the share transfer agreement. But if Yao Ying has a good relationship with them, can he be persuaded to do so? What do you want them to agree to? Now that Yun Boqian's family is in his hands, Yao Ying can probably guess a thing or two, but she still wants to hear him say it himself. I have an agreement here, take it to him and ask him to sign it no matter what the conditions are. We can negotiate, but this agreement must be signed. He took out something from his desk and handed it over. Yao Ying took it and read it, Share Transfer Agreement. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 452. Chapter 452 made her sigh with emotion. You haven't got the shares yet, Yao Ying was surprised. She either didn't know much about the company's internal affairs, or she was surprised. How could he secure the position of chairman if he hadn't obtained Yun Boqian's shares yet? The old fox is too cunning and stubborn, so you go and persuade him. Your son is dead, so why keep this kind of possession? If he is smarter and willing to transfer it, I will recognize him as his godfather and provide for him until his death. He's not at a loss anyway, he said calmly. You recognize him as your godfather? Yao Ying raised her voice and couldn't believe it. For money, for this power and status, you can even say such things. Ha, looking at her funny, Luo Yuanhang said, for money and to be a rich wife, you can even deny your biological son. What does it mean for me to recognize a godfather? If he is willing to give me all the Yun family, it's not impossible to recognize him as your biological father. You. Unexpectedly, he would say such words. Yao Ying almost carried it away in one breath and died of anger. Okay, put away your tricks. Your body is still healthy. Even if you are really angry or sick, just sign this agreement before you get sick again. You don't have to look at me like that. Wait until everything is in hand. It's not our mother and son in the end. Why are you so angry? Do you really want to give all this to Yun Chuxiu? Even the He family has made a clear relationship with her, can't you see clearly? Taking a deep breath and trying to calm down her turbulent emotions, Yao Ying held the agreement and asked, "Where are they?" "I will ask someone to send you there." He raised his lips, thought for a while and said, "No, I will send you there myself." Luo Yuanhang gave her instructions at the company, and then took her downstairs. There was already a business car waiting downstairs, with two bodyguard-looking people sitting in the car. "Why, don't you trust me?" she asked coldly. Yao Ying felt more and more that the son was too strange. "No way, if I didn't do this, I would have died countless times." He smiled slightly, waved his hand, and someone covered her eyes with a black cloth. "What are you doing? Are you still afraid that I will find the way and lead someone to catch you?" After struggling for a while, she couldn't get away at all and cursed angrily. Even after being scolded, Luo Yuanhang just smiled and said, "That's impossible to say. In this situation, I don't believe anyone but myself." "Okay, it's really good. This is the good son I raised," Yao Ying said angrily, but she stopped struggling and sat there honestly. "I couldn't see anything and didn't want to talk to him, so I fell asleep after a while. I don't know how long I slept for. When I woke up again from a drowsy state, the car had stopped." The black cloth covering her eyes was suddenly lifted. She squinted her eyes unaccustomedly. Slowly she felt that the light was less dazzling, and then she slowly opened her eyes. "It looks like a small garden in front of me, and the overall environment is not bad. It is a two-story building that looks very quiet, but relatively speaking, it seems to be very remote." She didn't know where it was, but looking around, there was only this house nearby. Could it be that it was in the mountains? "Go," Luo Yuanhang sat there calmly and didn't understand. "Go meet your old friend and give him some advice." "Aren't you going?" Yao Ying asked, looking at him with a frown. "I'm here waiting for your good news." Hands folded behind his head, he leaned back and said with a smile. He was putting pressure on her to succeed. Yao Ying knew in her heart that it would be difficult to accomplish this matter. How stubborn the tempers of Yun Boqian and his wife were. She knew in her heart that if he refused to give it, he would definitely not give it. How is it possible for him to give something to an outsider? But, things have reached this point now, so it might as well go and take a look. I haven't seen them for a while since the hospital, and I can't explain how I feel. Go to the door, reach out and push the door. Very lightly, the door opens. There was a faint aroma of food in the room. Yun Boqian and his wife were sitting at the dinner table, eating quietly. When someone came in, they didn't even raise their heads, as if they didn't hear anything. "Brother, sister-in-law." After approaching, Yao Yingke called softly. Yun Boqian still ignored her, but Mrs. Yun raised her head and glanced at her. "Xiao Ying. Sister-in-law." This little cry made her feel filled with emotion. Although he had been planning and calculating all his life, and he also thought that one day he could replace Dafang and take over the entire family business, but he did not expect that the result of the calculation would be like this. Yao Ying didn't know what to say for a while. "Have you eaten yet? Sit down and have a meal." Mrs. Yun stood up and went to get the bowls and chopsticks. "No, no need." She quickly stopped. "Brother and sister-in-law, how are you doing lately?" A wordless expression flashed across his face. Yun Boqian continued to pick up vegetables. Mrs. Yun glanced at him, turned around and sighed. "Xiao Ying, we are sisters-in-law, and I also regard you as a friend. We have been friends for more than 20 years. Well, there's no need to say such polite words." "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry." As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Boqian's chopsticks hit the table hard, startling her. "Is it interesting to come to us now and say sorry? Don't you think it's a cat crying over a mouse?" he said in a deep voice, but his eyes fell on the dinner table, without raising it or even looking at her. "I didn't expect that things would turn out like this," Yao Ying said with a cry. "I really don't know. I don't know if Yuan Hang will." "You don't know? You don't know what your precious daughter is planning, or you don't know that this person named Luo is your precious son. Xiaoying, you are so good. I didn't expect that you are so capable, raising a child got two good kids. Yun Boqian sneered and mocked, and Yao Ying suddenly felt embarrassed. The most important thing is that the brother and sister are not working together and even fight each other. Now Shuer is still in prison. As for the one outside, brother and sister-in-law, I know it's too late to say anything now, everything is my fault, but please believe me, I really don't know. And when the child is older, I can't control it anymore, and he doesn't listen to me. Just like when I came to see you today, I was brought here blindfolded, and there was nothing I could do. She sighed and said with a guilty look on her face. Hearing what she said, the couple looked at each other. Mrs. Yoon stood up and pulled her to sit down. He didn't make things difficult for you, did he? What are you thinking? They are mother and son, Yoon Bokin snorted coldly. Yes, the eldest brother is right. We are mother and son. He will not embarrass me too much, but he is also wary of me. I really didn't know that this child would do such a thing. At first, I just thought that he could just find a job and live a stable life in the future. Who would have thought? So, how is your second brother? Mrs. Yoon asked again. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 453. Chapter 453 Don't sign even if you die. She paused and sighed heavily. At this point, he has not been in contact with me forever, and he still cares about the relationship between husband and wife. He has had women and children outside for so many years, so how can he have the confidence to accuse him in front of you? You and your wife are quite compatible in this regard, Yoon Bokin said sarcastically. Yao Ying looked a little embarrassed. She actually expected that they would have nothing nice to say, but now, she had to be coerced into doing these things. Okay, don't say anything here. What are you here to do? Yoon Bokin said impatiently, turning his head. Since she was imprisoned here, she came here specifically not just to reminisce about old times. After a moment of hesitation, she glanced in the direction outside the door, and then whispered, Brother and sister-in-law, your shares haven't been transferred to Yuan Hang yet, have you? The couple looked at each other, the sarcasm in their eyes clearly visible. You are really here for this matter, Yoon Bokin said with a cold snort. Yao Ying, you have been married to my Yoon family for many years. Over the years, your sister-in-law and I have treated you well, right? Now you planning to take away my Yoon family's property together with your son? No, that's not what I meant. Shaking her head, Yao Ying quickly took out the document Luo Yuan Hang gave her. Look, Yuan Hang asked me to bring this over for you to sign. Of course, I know that eldest brother and my sister-in-law will definitely not sign. But if she doesn't sign, I don't know what Yuan Hang will do. Now he won't even listen to my words. Do you think I'm afraid of him? I, Yoon Bokin, have never seen any big storms, so I would be afraid of such a young boy. He looked disdainful and didn't even glance at the agreement. Brother, I'm not saying you're afraid of him, but I'm really afraid of him. This kid doesn't recognize any of his relatives now, and even Shuer is in jail. As my eldest brother and sister-in-law said, you all have treated me well, and you have treated me well over the years. Likewise, I don't want to see anything happen to you. Okay, if that's the case, take this thing and get your son and you out of our sight. If you are really serious, let him let us go. I said, he won't listen to me now, but brother, are you really trapped here by him? Is there really no other way? Her sudden change was profound, and her eyes would look out the door from time to time, as if to guard against someone coming in suddenly. What do you mean? Yoon Bokin frowned and said with an unhappy look. No, I don't mean anything else, I just want to say that Chu Yao. You still mentioned Chu Yao, Mrs. Yoon interrupted her and cursed angrily. Last time it was Shwe who went to the hospital to complain about everything. Do you think your eldest brother didn't die quickly enough? It's obvious that you all want us to die. If that's the case, then come quickly and don't even think about the shares. Sister-in-law, I don't mean to irritate you. It's just that in this situation, we might as well say something directly. Regarding the matter of eldest brother being hospitalized before, there is no need to pretend anymore. Everything was arranged by eldest brother. It's just that but none of us expected that we would fight to the death here, and finally fall into the hands of my son. Since the eldest brother's illness is fake, he will not be stimulated to the point of needing rescue. The matter of Chu Yao is very debatable. Chu Yao is not dead at all. Is he hiding somewhere? Is he your eldest brother? Another backup move. After visiting Yoon Chugseyo that day, her words woke me up and made me think of the series. But when she said these words, the couple did not react. Mrs. Yoon just focused her eyes on her husband, with worry on her face, as if she was worried that he might faint at any time. Yoon Bokin put one hand on his chest and frowned. He didn't show any discomfort at all, but he was very unhappy. You go, he said. Brother, I really don't have any ill intentions. No one wants things to turn out like this. Why don't you sign the share transfer document and I will make you and Hang promise that I will not change the name of the Yoon family. In the future, the Yoon family name will not be changed, it's still the Yoon family, but it's managed by different people. With Yoon Hang's ability, I believe that the Yoon family will be able to flourish. Shameless, these 4 words were said by Mrs. Yoon. She was not very good at cursing in the first place, but now she had to hold it in, and her face turned red. You don't need to say any more, we won't sign it even if we die. Do you think those shares won't be in my hands if you die? At some point, Luo Yuan Hang opened the door and walked in, holding his head high. How naive. Do you know that, no matter whether you sign or not, it won't change the outcome. The company is already mine. This is an indisputable fact. Really? Yoon Bokin sneered and looked at him sideways. Then, just wait and see. Yuan Hang. She didn't expect him to come in. Just as Yao Ying was about to say something, he raised his hand and stopped her. He walked over and picked up the transfer agreement on the table, glanced at it twice, and then moved his fingers, tearing the agreement in half with his 2 hands. Yuan voyage, Yao Ying exclaimed. After tearing it into several pieces, he threw it away and the pieces fell down lightly. Luo Yuan Hang looked confident. Do you really think I have to have such a paper agreement? Times have changed, old fox, you will also be caught by hunters one day. Don't get too proud too early, little boy, Yoon Bokin said with a sneer without changing his expression. Okay, let's see who can laugh longer. Turning around, he glanced at Yao Ying as she passed her. Aren't you leaving yet? Are you going to stay here and wait for others to laugh at you? Looking back at Yoon Bokin and his wife, Yao Ying moved her lips, but still followed. After getting into the car, the black cloth was covered again, and she did not resist again and allowed him to fasten the belt. When did you start planning all this? In the dark world, her mind became particularly clear and she asked coldly. Luo Yuan Hang's hand paused, and the corners of his lips curved. Since your precious daughter placed me in that small broken house, since I can still survive, I must turn over, and I must turn over. I can't let those people watch the joke. I didn't expect that he had been planning for so long, but I didn't notice it at all, and naively thought that the siblings could coexist peacefully. How naive. In a wealthy family, there is indeed no real feelings, everything is just a lie. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Vignette. Chapter 454. Chapter 454. Why am I not dead yet? Ms. Su, happy cooperation, put down the pen and picked up the 2 signed contracts. The other party showed a satisfied smile. Su-yoon took the contract, looked at it carefully again, and extended her hand. Happy cooperation. The cooperation with Yale did not expect to go so smoothly. The other party only made slight modifications to the conditions proposed by her, and most of them readily agreed. In the next quarter, the other party will launch a joint model with her, which will be named the Yale-Yoon series. This is actually a win-win model. Of course, there is no precedent. Some famous perfumers have cooperated with major international brands to produce a joint series. This is very popular with some customers who are more familiar with perfumers. This is just the first step to open up the international market. It is difficult for her to reach the top in one step with her own strength. The cooperation with Yale is actually a very good opportunity. She does not have to refuse it completely, but if the conditions are not if it's appropriate, you can't give in or compromise. Yale's vision is so high. If he hadn't really taken a fancy to her 4-season series, he would never have offered her an olive branch. Abroad, Chinese perfumers are not valued very much, and there is even a little discrimination. Therefore, if you can take the initiative to discuss cooperation with her, the initiative will be in her hands, and it will not be difficult to offer terms. Of course, we can't be open-minded and open our mouths. Only by striving reasonably can we achieve the long-term goal. After signing the agreement, she felt relaxed and stretched her arms. The conditions of this contract are really good. I dare say that few companies in the industry can have such good treatment. Zhao Xian flicked the contract with his fingers and said with emotion. Thanks to you for helping me check it. There are some small clauses in it. You said I didn't even pay attention to them, and there are some word games, she said with emotion. Zhao Xian laughed. It's normal that you didn't pay attention. It's not easy to distinguish contract terms without any experience or professionalism. After all, they are all made by a professional team of lawyers. I signed it too many times, I have some experience, otherwise, I wouldn't be able to tell. Su-yoon nodded, thinking that Si Yao had specially sent a message to ask her to bring Zhao Xian with her. At that time, she didn't think it was necessary. Now that she thought about it, he was indeed thoughtful. First of all, Zhao Xian is indeed very knowledgeable in these aspects and can help her check things out. The two of them also discuss it. Secondly, Zhao Xian is a familiar person to her, so she will not feel strange or distant. Of course, and an important reason is that Zhao Xian is a woman. It is said that the entire legal team of Huanya is basically composed of men. How could Si Yao be relieved to have a man come with her? She even thought too much. If he hadn't really been unable to leave and had a big project to discuss, he would probably have flown over in person to help her read the contract. After signing this, everything will go smoothly. You don't have to worry about long-term development, but I guess you will also be busy. Yale has a lot of orders every year and has high-quality requirements. Zhao Xian tilted his head. He looked at her and said, "Aren't you going to have a wedding? You are a newlywed, why don't you give yourself a holiday first?" "Let's talk about it then, I haven't thought about it yet." She moved her neck and heard a voice beside her saying the same thing, "Happy cooperation." It is very common for people to discuss business here. What is unusual is that this person's voice is very familiar, so familiar that she can't help but look. At this sight, I couldn't help but be shocked. The other person just stood up to say goodbye. While shaking hands and smiling, he also saw her. In contrast, the other party was very natural, smiled slightly, and greeted her. "Su-yoon, what a coincidence. If you can call her by name, does that mean you have mistakenly recognized the person?" "How did you?" Su-yoon was so surprised that she couldn't say anything. Why am I not dead yet? His smile became deeper and he looked much more mature. Compared with the unruly young man before, he felt that he had grown up a lot. Today he is wearing a white slim-fitting shirt, very businesslike, his hair is clearly done, and he even has a briefcase at hand. To be honest, if he hadn't taken the initiative to call her by name, she would not have dared to recognize him. Don't say that, Soo-yoon frowned. Although he was talking about himself, it still sounded uncomfortable. I just haven't seen you for a long time. Seeing the interaction between Soo-yoon and the handsome guy at the table next to her, Zhao Xian looked over curiously. Something happened, he nodded and said with a slight smile, since it's such a coincidence, let's have a cup of afternoon tea together, I'll treat you. Okay. Anyway, the things she came here to do were almost finished. It was rare to meet him. It was better to meet him by chance than to invite him, so she nodded and agreed. You. Zhao Xian hesitated to speak, not knowing whether to interrupt their conversation. A friend of mine, Soo-yoon smiled. Sister Zhao, are you going to drink tea with us, or are you going to go back and rest first? Zhao Xian thought for a while and said, I'd better go shopping by myself. I haven't had a good time shopping in the 2 days I've been here, and I'm about to leave again. That's fine, you can send me a message if you need anything. She stood up. I found a tea bar nearby, ordered a pot of Osman thus puer, and sat down to enjoy this rare quiet moment. Hold the small teacup and turn it in her hand. Soo-yoon looked at the young man in front of her with emotion. I still remember the first time I met him. He was very aggressive and very individual. He seemed to have a childishness that had not faded away. But now, the person sitting in front of him was no longer a boy, but a man. He sat there, pouring tea skillfully, and handling snacks for her in a gentlemanly manner. He lowered his eyes and was meticulous. Where have you been to play these days? He hesitated for a moment before he said the words, and then asked after thinking about it. Raising his eyes to look at her, Yoon Chwaeo smiled, do you want to ask me how I came back from the dead? Soo-yoon shook her head, I never thought you were dead. Although I heard the news, I always felt that it was not true. Oh, Yoon Chwaeo raised his eyebrows, a little curious about her answer. Why? Could it be that she also had some kind of telepathic connection with herself and sensed that he was not dead yet? The news of the death has come, and even a reclusive person like me can hear it. I think it should spread to the outside world. Your parents will definitely be very shocked when they know this bad news, but after this, they will also. I've made a lot of arrangements for you, but it's been so long and there's been no movement. This is so unusual. Also, although there is bad news, there is no conclusive evidence. There is no body, no video, and no cause and effect. It is just a death message. It is so simple. What are you hiding? If Yoon Chwaeo had any hope just now, she no longer has it now. She must be too calm. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 455. Chapter 455 is a joke to you. When Yoon Chwaeo heard what she said, he shook his head and sighed, hey. I thought my death would be more or less sad, but it turns out that it has no influence. Is it for a game? Faced with his teasing, Soo-yoon did not laugh, but asked seriously. Raising his eyes to look at her, Yoon Chwaeo's eyes flashed, what? If you don't want to tell me, of course I won't force you to tell me. Everyone has their own secrets. Maybe you have something you want to do. She is not someone who insists on finding out people's details. If he really doesn't want to tell, that's okay if you don't say it. Yoon Chwaeo smiled and said, it's not that I can't say it, but it's not the right time yet. I didn't expect to meet you here. What, do you want to come out to play? No, let's talk about cooperation, Soo-yoon answered frankly. Raising his eyebrows, Yoon Chwaeo looked at her with a somewhat surprised look, When I saw you before, you were just doing experiments in the laboratory, and you only knew how to concoct various perfumes and spices. Now you're out to talk about cooperation? Tisk, tisk, is it still you? Hearing his praise and emotion, Soo-yoon couldn't help but laugh. Yes, this is really different from her previous self. At that time, she never talked about cooperation or paid attention to these things. She only focused on doing a good job in fragrance blending. There was no one else to talk about business. What? Her growth has been really rapid in the past 2 years. In addition to being grateful to that scumbag Luo Yuan Hang, the most important thing to thank is Si Yao's help to her. He always helps in a timely manner, but never intervenes to control anything she wants to do. Love is perfection, this is what she learned from him. Hey hey hey. After waving his hand, Yoon Chwaeo looked at her speechlessly. I'm just going to compliment you a few times. Look at you, you're smiling like a flower. What did you think of? You're so happy, why do I smell the smell of dog food? Go away, kid, don't talk nonsense, Soo-yoon sneered at him, and she realized in panic that he was no longer the rebellious kid who squatted in a roadside shop and worked on wood carvings. At this moment, he has grown into a man, wearing a suit and leather shoes, sitting in a coffee shop and talking about business seriously. The hand that always holds a carving knife also holds a pen. Many things are still the same, many things are still the same. Things are also different. So you won't make wood carvings anymore, I can't help but feel a little sad. He is still alive and talking about business here. He will definitely inherit the Yoon family's industry in the future, right? Just do it, why not do it? Unexpectedly, he answered decisively, but from now on I can only do it in my free time, and it can no longer be regarded as my main job. But fortunately, it is already a great blessing from God that I can still do it. The gift. People always have gains and losses. It is impossible to be greedy and want everything, and people always need to take some responsibilities, so relatively speaking, God has been kind to him. You should know what happened to the Yoon family recently, right? He asked cautiously and tentatively. Yoon Chwaeo lowered his eyes, looking a little sad, and said in a low voice, sorry, I made you laugh. The affairs of the Yoon family have long been a turmoil in the city. People outside may have thought that the Yoon family is about to change. There have been several power grabs, many open and covered fights, and even a few people have been jailed. It has become like this. It is indeed not very good looking. How many people are watching the joke? What kind of joke am I looking at? This is your Yoon family's private matter, so I have nothing to laugh at. But since you appear here and are so calm and composed, I guess you have a plan to deal with it, and I don't have to worry about you. Thank you for your concern, Yoon Chwaeo said seriously. Why are you so polite all of a sudden? By the way, do you still remember the pieces of wood you gave me before? Soo-yoon thought of this happy incident and it was definitely worth sharing with him. Yoon Chwaeo nodded, yeah. I used one of the raw materials to refine the essence, and the perfume was very popular. Speaking of my work, I am still very proud of it. You mean, the Four Seasons series? Yoon Chwaeo asked after thinking about it. You know too, she was surprised. She didn't expect that even he knew about it. Yeah, nodding, he smiled and said, I happened to get in touch with the model team over there a while ago and smelled it. I thought the smell was very familiar. I didn't expect it to be the work of those pieces of wood. So, you have a share of the credit, Soo-yoon said with a smile. Not only this, but also a few pieces. I put them in my breeding base and cultivated them. They have sprouted. I think they can be cultivated. And the taste of meow meow is a bit more special. I'm considering taking another look. You still have a breeding base? Seeing her in high spirits, Yoon Chwaeo couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, I'll take you to see it if I get the chance. After a pause, Soo-yoon looked at him, remembering that he was still in a dead state in the eyes of some people, and asked, then, when can you return to the Yoon family? Soon, I should be going back soon, and there will be a chance to meet me then. Yeah. That's good, nodding, Soo-yoon said with emotion, I really hope these storms will pass quickly. Yes, Yoon Chwaeo said with certainty. No matter what the storm, it will pass, and the sun and rainbow will definitely appear. When he stood up to say goodbye, Yoon Chwaeo thought of another thing, by the way, maybe we can cooperate in the future. What? Soo-yoon was puzzled. You will know then. I think you will be interested. Yoon Chwaeo curled his lips and looked at her confused eyes. Suddenly, he had a bad intention. He leaned slightly and moved toward her. He tilted his direction and said, say hello to Mr. Si for me. He had already walked away before she could ask. Why did he suddenly say this out of nowhere? Is he familiar with Si Yao? Luo Yuanhang has been busy with a big project recently. He is accelerating the reorganization of the company's top management and raising an investment. If he wants to take possession of the entire company, he still needs to get the shares in Yoon Bokin's hands, but the old man refuses to give in. It seems that he can only use other methods. Looking at the documents in his hand, he smiled proudly. It's not like he hasn't been exposed to these before, but at that time he felt that he couldn't use them at all. Now, in this critical period, he has to use this method. Anyway, no one can tell if the fake is real. As soon as the shares are handed over and he takes the position of chairman, who will check these old accounts? With this thing in hand, as well as the official and private seals collected from Yoon Bokin, everything was ready, and he could enjoy the fruits of victory immediately. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 456. Chapter 456 Impossible. Just when he was ready to go to the meeting with great satisfaction, his assistant ran in a panic and said, Mr. Luo, it's not good, it's not good. This feeling was really unlucky, and his face suddenly darkened. What's wrong? Say something nice. I'm very good. No, Mr. Luo, Mr. Yun, Maybe he was running too fast, and he couldn't even catch his breath. He was taking a big breath and talking intermittently. Luo Yuanhang frowned, which Mr. Yun? There are too many Mr. Yun in this company, but it doesn't matter. Anyone named Yun will be kicked out of the company immediately. From now on, in this company, the surname Luo will have nothing to do with anyone surnamed Yun. Yun, Mr. Yun, that's General Manager Yun. He stamped his feet and gritted his teeth and said, Yun Zhongcheng. Hearing this name, Luo Yuanhang didn't take it seriously. What other tricks could the old guy come up with? He slowly picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip of tea. He asked slowly, oh, him. Didn't I say that he will resign immediately and no longer need to be called Mr. Yun? What's wrong? He committed suicide by jumping off the building. Luo Yuanhang did not go to the hospital, he was greeted by the police. He never expected that Yun Zhongcheng would use this method to call the police. He thought that since he installed interference in his mobile phone and sent people to keep an eye on him, he would definitely not cause any trouble. But I didn't expect that he would actually use the trick of jumping off the building. I thought that everything was firmly under my control, but I didn't expect that I was still missing a move. Yun Zhongcheng is not dead, and of course he is not really seeking death. He just wants to use this method to attract the police so that Yun Chukian can report the crime smoothly. However, jumping off a building, no matter how many choices and calculations, there is still a certain risk, so injuries are inevitable, and calculations always fail to catch up with God's will. When he jumped, he injured his lumbar spine. Basically, he will be injured for the rest of his life. Had to pass in a wheelchair. When he jumped down, he was also afraid, but thinking that if he was controlled like this, the Yun family would really be gone soon. By then, he would really have nothing, so he gritted his teeth, closed his eyes and jumped go down. Fortunately, the police are really here. Just. Luo Yuanhang denies the accusation at all. Yoon Chukian has no conclusive evidence. Everything is just one-sided words. Regarding being kidnapped by Luo Yuanhang, there are no witnesses and no physical evidence. I couldn't find the place where I was kidnapped, and I couldn't tell the approximate location. From being caught to being released, he said it all by himself, and it's okay to call it a slander. In addition, Luo Yuanhang has a dedicated lawyer helping him, so it will be difficult to convict him. For this, Luo Yuanhang is somewhat proud. I think back then, when he was in trouble, everyone called for beating him. Now, as long as he sits here, a lawyer can answer everything. So, having money is good. As long as you have money, these are not problems. Just when he felt that he had exceeded the detention time and could go out, he stood up with a smile and said, "Officer, can we go? I hope you can investigate such slander and slander strictly." He walked out and saw Yoon Chukian sitting there. As soon as he saw him, he stood up and said, "You liar, you cheated our Yoon family's property, you cheated me, you scoundrel. Kid, I advise you. This is the police station. You'd better think clearly when you speak and don't talk nonsense. How did I lie to you? I remember it was your sister who reported the warning, right? Tisk tisk, you are such a person, you even dare to accuse your own sister, and now you bite others, and you come to accuse me. Comrade police, you'd better investigate this person, I'm afraid there is a big problem with him." He was elated and could not hide his excitement. Although it disrupted his plan a little bit, it didn't matter. So what if Yoon Zhongcheng jumped off the building and became paralyzed? We still couldn't sue him. He had already taken care of everything. If he wasn't completely sure, how could he easily get what he wanted? Yoon Chukian was so angry that he rushed over and wanted to hit him, but this was in a police station. How could he do it? He was already stopped before he could rush over. Luo Yuanhang became even more arrogant. "Look, everyone, this person has violent tendencies, and he wants to hit me. Now I seriously doubt that he was kidnapped or deceived. It was all his own imagination. He may be mentally ill, check it out carefully. This kind of person cannot be released to harm others." "Luo Yuanhang, you must die a good death," Yoon Chukian screamed in anger. "A boy who I never paid much attention to actually took away everything I wanted, and now I am still laughing at him smugly. How disgusting. Regret. A family was manipulated by an outsider. Tisk, tisk, don't speak so harshly." Luo Yuanhang took 2 steps forward, then turned around as if he remembered something again. "By the way, I really wanted to forget to tell you, your uncle, Mr. Yoon, has already signed all the shares. It's been transferred to me. After the formalities are completed, the Yoon family will be renamed Luo family, and it has nothing to do with you, a brat. You, who said Yun's name is going to be changed?" Suddenly, a deep voice came. Luo Yuanhang was startled, and subconsciously raised his head to look at the source of the sound. As soon as he saw the door, Yoon Bokin strode in. He was wearing a tall dark gray suit and his hair was combed meticulously. He looked full of energy and showed no signs of dying. "You." With his eyes widened, Luo Yuanhang looked at him in disbelief, suddenly thinking that he was hallucinating. No, it's impossible. He was obviously being guarded tightly by his own people, so how could he be here? And looking at him, it seems like nothing has happened. How is this possible? Why, you don't seem happy at all to see me. Didn't you say that I have transferred all the shares in my name to you and you want to go through the formalities with me? Then you should be very happy to see me. Ah. Yoon Bokin looked at him with a smile on his lips, but his smile was cold. I swallowed, and had a vague feeling of bad premonition, but when things got to this point, I had to hold on no matter what. He forced a smile and said, "Yes, yes. I thought you were in poor health and needed more rest. Since you can come in person, how about we go and take care of it in person? By the way, is Mrs. Yoon in good health? I heard that she has been in poor health. Why don't you finish the formalities and go back to accompany her as soon as possible? I can take care of the company's affairs from now on." It sounded like he was concerned, but in fact he was threatening Mrs. Yoon's safety. Luo Yuanhang was not sure now, whether the couple escaped together or whether he was alone. His subordinates didn't call him. He didn't know what the situation was and he was panicking. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 457. Chapter 457 changed his name to Mr. Yoon. Of course you don't need to care about my wife, I will take good care of her. Yoon Bokin smiled, you'd better care about yourself. After speaking, he turned to face the police and said, I'm reporting the crime. No one expected that the Yoon family's affairs would take such a turn. Yoon Bokin, who was thought to be terminally ill, turned out to be fine at all, and turned around and sued Luo Yuanhang with full evidence. The storm in the Yoon family seemed to have subsided overnight. After all, Yoon Bokin is back, so everything can get back on track. However, there has been a very big change in the top management of the Yoon family. At that time, those who defected to Yoon Chugseo's side, and those who sided with Luo Yuanhang, all swept out. At this time, other people suddenly realized that Yoon Bokin had played a big game of chess. Yoonchi has developed to this day. Although it seems to be prosperous, there are still many problems due to internal intrigues and strong management teams. They are competing against each other, which has harmed the interests of the company. The company had several projects before. It was because Yoon Chugseo's group and the old group of the company, including the group secretly supported by Yoon Zhongchang, fought with each other, resulting in huge losses in the projects. The reason why there was no big trouble was that Yoon Bokin adjusted and resolved it. However, he is getting older. Even if he can still control, he doesn't know how long he will be in control. If he passes the position to his son, there may be people in the company who are not convinced. Also, it's not like he can't see Yoon Chugseo's ambition. Originally, there was no problem for her own niece to share part of the shares and rights, but she wanted too much. She wanted the entire company and everything. In her eyes, Yoon Bokai could do it. Read that full of greed. He knows more or less what she does in private. It's just that it hasn't been exposed, but if one day Choi comes to power, it's really hard to say what Yoon Chugseo will do. For the sake of his son, and for the sake of the entire company and the Yoon family, he tried his best to set up a trap. The purpose was to make Yoon Chugseo lose her composure and jump out, and to uncover some of the unstable factors in the company. Kicked out. However, there was something he missed, and that was Luo Yuanhang. I didn't expect that this kid would jump out of the game halfway and almost ruin the whole game. Fortunately, he discovered it in time and made arrangements, so that he thought he had really succeeded in kidnapping him. How naive. I think he has taken root here. Over the years, not to mention superficially, he has people on both sides. If Luo Yuanhang has a small force, he really wants to do something. How can he not know? Do you really think you can trap him with just those little minions? In front of him, those people were completely vulnerable. But this is good, it saves trouble, and all potential threats are dealt with in one pot. In the new round of Yun's meeting, there were many new faces, but Yun Bokyun still sat at the top of the table. There are two things to announce at today's meeting. First, I, Yun Bokyun, will step down from my position. The position of Chairman Yun has taken a backseat. Mr. Yun. The people below exclaimed. It's not easy to settle down. Why should he step down at this time? What if something goes wrong again? Don't worry yet, he raised his hand and continued, just because I'm resigning doesn't mean that I don't care about anything. I will still assist the new chairman, but, all the decision-making power will be given by it's up to the new chairman to make the decision. Let us welcome the new chairman. The door opened and Yoon Choi-ao walked in. Many people gasped. Many people thought he was dead, but they didn't expect that he was not only alive, but also appeared here alive, and he became the next chairman of Yunchi. By this time, many quick-thinking people have already figured it out. All the ups and downs in the past were all paving the way for this day. Having cleared all the obstacles ahead for him, and allowing Yoon Choi-ao to securely ascend to the throne, he is truly the heart of every parent in the world. Soon, everyone began to applaud and welcome, at least to show their support for the newly appointed chairman. Yoon Choi-ao walked over and said in a deep voice, "This is not the first time I have come to the company, nor is it the first time I have participated in a meeting, but today, it is the first time I stand here in this capacity. In the days to come, I am willing to work with you through thick and thin to make Yunchi even more glorious. Chuyao, I don't need to introduce you to everyone. We all know each other. Now let's talk about the second thing. Our company will develop a new project recently. This new project may become the company's main profit source when developed. And Chuyao is in charge of this project. Now let him tell you about this new project." Sitting next to Yoon Bokyun, Yoon Choi-ao took out the document bag, took out the documents, took a USB flash drive and handed it to the conference secretary, asked her to put it into the computer, and then made a projection. When everyone saw the words on the big screen clearly, they were stunned for a moment. Wood carving. This is a project that the company has never been involved in. How did it come to think of developing this? And is this thing really profitable? Yes, it's wood carving, Yoon Choi-ao nodded and responded, I know you must have some concerns. After all, our company has never done this project before. After a pause, he stood up and continued, actually, it's not that it has never been done before. It's just that because the project is not yet mature, it has not been widely implemented. It is just a preliminary attempt. In the past few months, I went to southern Yunnan and some tropical areas. Firstly, I selected suitable wood, talked about suppliers, and secondly, I also explored the market. It is precisely because not many people are paying attention now. Not much has been done, so the market potential is still huge. As a work of art, wood carvings have a very high collection value. There are many enthusiasts who offer sky-high prices for this kind of collectibles. As for suitable wood carvers, I have also screened them. In addition, not long ago, I just placed an order. This order should be enough for us for at least 3 years. Then he pulled out all the data analysis done and made it clear at a glance. If there were still people who had doubts just now, they have given up their worries now and are even very interested. That's good. Some of our company's projects are pretty good at the moment, but after all, it's a sunset industry, so we still need to be aware of the crisis. I didn't expect Xiaoun to be so far-sighted. I think this project is okay. Why, Mr. Xiaoyun, now you want to change your name to Mr. Yundong. That's right. Director Yun. I believe that under the leadership of Director Yun, our Yun family will have better development prospects in the future. Support Mr. Yun, support new projects. Yoon Choi-ao relaxed slightly. After all, it was his first time to stand alone, so he was still a little nervous. He looked at his father and smiled. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 458. Chapter 458. You still don't understand. In the hospital, Yoon Jong-chen never expected that he would meet his elder brother in this way again. For a moment, he sighed with emotion. Brother, he didn't know what to say. I almost know everything that happened in the past 2 days, from the initial shock to the later acceptance, and then slowly, it has been sorted out in my mind. Looking back on it, it only lasted more than a month. It was like having a big dream. I thought I had everything under control, but I didn't expect that I was just a chess piece on the chessboard of someone else's game. At the end, this is the result. How are you feeling now? Yoon Bokin dragged a chair over, sat in front of him, and asked warmly. What else can I do? This will be it for the rest of my life, he sighed. He looked much older. He looked even older than Yoon Bokin. Brother, until now, I have only one thing to ask you. Although I have done a lot of wrong things, and I really can't help you, I hope you can remember us as brothers. Now I am this, it seems that you can promise me. You want to say, that son of yours, after thinking about it, he asked. Yoon Jong-chen nodded, I am just such a son. I originally wanted to give him the best and everything I had. But I didn't expect that it would be all in vain. I can't help them, mother and son, for so many years you have no name or status by my side. Xiao Qian has never had a complete family since he was a child, and now. Yoon Chukian was also arrested for making false police reports and committing perjury. After a lot of fuss, both of his children finally went in. Xiaoying ignored him for a long time. Chen Kuilei made trouble twice and left in tears. He is now surrounded by caregivers taking care of him. If he hadn't still had some money, and if he hadn't been from the Yoon family, I really don't know what kind of situation he would be in today. Zhong Chen, after calling his name, Yoon Bokin sighed and asked, have you ever thought about Shue'er? Huh? Yoon Zhongchen looked puzzled. I can understand that you are thinking about your son, but Shue'er is your daughter. Have you ever thought about her or considered her? Wrinkled his eyebrows, Yoon Zhongchen didn't quite understand what he meant. Of course I have considered it. She has always bought the best for her food and clothing since she was a child. She was raised as a princess. Really? Now that you are in this situation, you can still think about your son. Have you ever thought about her? At a loss for words, Yoon Zhongchen paused and said, she did those things herself, and now she's like this. I don't hate her, it's already a father-daughter relationship. I think back when she threatened herself, who among her children would dare to do this to her father? Shaking his head, Yoon Bokin said earnestly, then why did she do this? Have you ever thought about why she has such great ambitions? Also, have you seen her abilities in the company for so many years? She has such great ambitions, isn't she too greedy? I have already given her so much, and I have already said that if Xiao Qian inherits the company, the Yoon family will be her most powerful family in the future, and she is still not satisfied. When he said this, Yoon Bokin started laughing. Look, even now, you still don't understand. Since you think you have given her a lot, why must you let your illegitimate son inherit it? Why haven't you thought that Shue'er actually has this ability? These days, when I was in the hospital, you were making trouble in the company. I really didn't interfere. I just wanted to see what you could do. But look, it's obvious that your son is not as capable as Shue'er. Not only has this project been manipulated into a mess, but it has also been set up many times and fallen into other people's traps. If the company is really handed over to him, have you ever thought about what will happen? In fact, Yoon Zhongchen didn't think about what he said, nor couldn't see it, he just selectively ignored it. What can he do? He only has one son. Who else can he give it to if he doesn't give it to him? Then, Xiao Qian just has no experience. I believe that after this time, he will definitely grow up. Brother, just give him a chance. He is still so young and has a criminal record. I'm afraid it will be difficult after he comes out. When he's looking for a job, just let him work in Yun's family, give him a position and let him learn slowly, and he will learn very well. Zhong Cheng, why are you still only focused on him now? Yun Boqian stood up to pour water, sighing, I know you favor boys over girls, but I didn't expect that you would be so partial. Why can't Shwe'er? You keep saying that he can learn, so why don't you give Shwe'er a chance? She is a girl, she will get married sooner or later, Yun Zhongchen muttered. In what age do you still think like this? Shwe'er will be like this today, and you, the father, have to bear most of the responsibility. After drinking water, Yun Boqian directly exposed him. However, Yun Zhongchen was not convinced. Brother, why do you have to say anything about me? You are just saying this now because you won. Aren't you doing the same thing and giving everything to your son? You are wrong. Yun Boqian turned to look at him with stern eyes. I gave it to Chu Yao because he can bear this heavy responsibility. If he can't, I will never force it. These days I completely let it go. It was a plan, but I also gave you a chance. But look, what have you done? The company is full of chaos, fighting against each other, forming cliques, and causing many crisis news to the outside world, and the company's stock price has suffered. How big of an impact have you thought about this? Chu Yao has been away recently. You thought he was dead. What did you do? After all, he is also your nephew. Have you sent anyone to find his whereabouts? Shwe'er even rushed to the hospital, came to tell me about his death. Did he want me to die quickly? During this period, you guys have been fighting here. Chu Yao has visited various places, negotiated business, and done projects, which has brought huge profits to the company. Why don't I hand the company over to him? Zhong Cheng, after so many years, you still do not understand. Also, don't talk about sons and daughters. If Chuao were a girl today, as long as he had this ability, I would still give it to him. 100 years later, will you still care so much? Isn't that what we as parents do? Child. Think about these years. Have you been worthy of Xiaoying and Chengguo? Are you worthy of your two children? Look at the ridiculous things you have done. At first I didn't want to say this about him, but unexpectedly, he still didn't repent. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 459. Chapter 459. If you decide. Brother, even if I'm wrong, you can help me take care of Xiao Qian, and, Shwe'er, after hesitating for a moment, he said cautiously. Now that the situation is over, he has no choice but to ask Yun Boqian for help. After all, they are a family. He just hopes that he can still respect this point of affection and not be too ruthless. Let's wait until they come out. After all, they are the heirs of the Yun family, but, Chu Yao will make the decision in the future of the company. Regarding the company's personnel changes, I will not interfere. In addition to Chu Yao, there will also be people from the Human Resources Department who will follow the rules. But I can guarantee that they will have enough food and clothing. That's all he can do. If the company continues to allow all kinds of cliques and nepotism, then the Yun family will be finished sooner or later. Lowering his eyes, Yun Zhongcheng was still a little disappointed. He originally thought that he could let them re-enter the company. Even if they couldn't achieve the same high position as before, they could be given a position like a manager. But now the power is in the hands of Yun Chuao, and since his brother has spoken like this, there is no room for discussion. Well, I can't control that much anymore, He sighed and seemed to remember something again. By the way, brother, may I ask, why did you think of setting up such a trap? After all, before you enter before the hospital, I thought we all followed the rules and didn't reveal anything. Follow the rules, Yoon Bokin sneered and looked at him. Do you think I don't know about the kickbacks you received? Do you think I don't know how many times the company's projects have gone wrong? Do you think you can change materials? I don't care about suppliers. He didn't expect that his eldest brother actually knew all these things. He usually pretended to know nothing and never asked, thinking that he really didn't know. If I was still a little unconvinced before, there is nothing to say now. I see. You can rest in peace and recuperate. Yoon Bokin wanted to say something else, but the door of the ward was pushed open. Yao Ying stood at the door. When she saw him, she was stunned for a moment, and a flash of embarrassment flashed across her face. She then raised her hand and brushed her hair to hide her embarrassment. Brother, you are here too. Yes, I nodded. Yoon Bokin knew her embarrassment. Since you are here, let's talk. I happen to be leaving too. Brother, wait a minute. Yao Ying stopped him, turned to look at Yoon Zhongcheng on the hospital bed, pursed her lips. Since you happen to be here, you should also listen. I have something to say. Hearing what she said, Yoon Bokin simply stayed and noticed that she was holding a folder in her hand. Open the folder, take out a stack of documents and a pen, hand them to Yoon Zhongcheng and say, Zhongcheng, please sign. Yoon Zhongcheng. When he saw the words clearly, his face turned blue. Divorce agreement. Xiaoying, are you crazy? At this time, you want to divorce me? He struggled to get up, but his physical condition did not allow him to, so he staggered and fell down again. I know it's a bit unkind for me to propose divorce to you at this time, but I don't want to delay it any longer. After so many years, it's really enough, she said. I have already found a lawyer to make detailed terms. You can also take a look at the division of property. I won't take advantage of you, but I will take what I deserve. That's it? How could Yoon Zhongcheng accept it? He threw the document on the ground with a wave of his hand. I won't sign. I won't sign. Whatever, if you don't sign, I will sue or separate for a while. Anyway, I am divorced from you. Zhongcheng, it's boring. It's really boring. What's interesting or not, Yao Ying, we have been married for many years. What do I look like now? Oh, you see I'm in trouble. Are you going to divorce me? He patted his leg, feeling nothing, and he was angry, said. You know, it's not because of this. Yes, others envy me for marrying into a wealthy family, but you also know in your heart how much you have given me in total over the years, and how much I have done for this family. But, you have been outside for so many years. If you don't know anything about that woman and you bring her illegitimate child home, have you considered my face and my feelings? Do you dare to say that you have never thought about divorce? She asked this question, but Yoon Zhongcheng was stunned. He has considered it, of course he has considered getting a divorce. Every time he lingered in the gentle village of Guo'er until death, he would firmly vow to get a divorce. However, the benefits involved in divorce were too great, and he would just divorce at any time. He thought that this would be the end of his life, and at worst he would be coaxed by both sides, and he would enjoy the blessings of everyone. Unexpectedly, at this juncture, Yao Ying wanted to divorce him. I'm not getting divorced anyway. He raised his eyelids and saw Yoon Bokin standing aside. Brother, please persuade her quickly. I don't know why this woman is crazy. Xiao Ying. Yoon Bokin looked at him, then turned to Yao Ying. Brother, don't persuade me, Yao Ying said seriously. What I'm saying is, if you decide, just do it. Unexpectedly, he would say such a thing. Yoon Zongchen's eyes went straight. Brother, do you know what you are talking about? Are you crazy? Are you encouraging her to divorce me? Zhongcheng, I said, You haven't thought it through yet. Do you really have a sense of responsibility for your wife, children, and your family? I don't want to hear this. Anyway, all of you are trying to force me to death, right? Well, I'll die. I should just jump off the building and die. He was making a fuss like crazy. Yao Ying did not stop her, nor did she soften her stance. Instead, she said sternly, yes. You deserve to die. Why don't you just fall to death? Yun Zhongchen, who do you think is your fault for becoming like this? What are you doing? Did I jump off the building for Shuer? You did it for your son, the son you want with all your heart. What does it have to do with me? I don't want to be entangled with you like this anymore. Let it go, I'm tired. She bent down to pick up the divorce agreement. Now that things have happened, we both have a grudge in our hearts. You have your son, I have mine too. Anyway, after signing, we have nothing to do with each other. This time, Yun Zhongchen didn't make any more fuss, he just let her put the agreement in his hand with a sullen face. Brother, she turned around and looked at Yun Boqian. Yun Boqian raised his eyebrows but said nothing. I'm sorry, for so many years, I have indeed been planning and having selfish motives. This is my retribution. Maybe you don't want to recognize someone like me anymore, but you and my sister-in-law will always be brothers and sisters-in-law in my heart. She sighed deeply and looked much haggard. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 460. Chapter 460 became a mythical figure. After so many things, and now her son and daughter are in jail, she has been hit really hard. She has carefully planned for half her life, thinking that the Yun family's property will eventually belong to her children in the future, but she didn't expect that it would all be in vain. She was alone now, and suddenly she felt that nothing was interesting anymore. She had been fighting for so many years and being cautious for so many years. What did she want and why? She almost didn't recognize what Yuan Hang had become like. Her son was so extreme that he actually attacked his own sister, and Shuer didn't want to see her again. She failed as a mother, and she also failed as a wife. Yun Zhongchen took care of Chen Guo outside all year round, and even raised a son. He even brought the illegitimate son back to inherit the family business in an arrogant way. Apart from guarding the position of a head wife, what else did she have? It's all in vain, everything is nothing but nothing. No matter what kind of selfishness you have, it is true that you have taken care of your sister-in-law these years. The Yun family is also your home, even if. He glanced at Yun Zhongchen, who was sullen and silent, and continued, even if you are with Zhongchen is divorced, and you are also a member of this family. Thank you, brother. Yao Ying burst into tears of gratitude. Looking deeply at his brother, Yun Boqian sighed slowly. Su Yun has been enjoying a good time recently. Not only was the collaboration very pleasant, the official announcement of her cooperation with Yale has been released, and the industry has received praise. The investigation of the Fragrance Industry Association has also produced results. It was indeed confirmed that He Lao had lost his sense of smell, and by inference, it had been a long time. As soon as this news came out, the entire industry and even other circles were shocked. As a perfumer, a Taishan Baidu in the perfume industry, he can't tell the difference between fragrance and smell at all. Why should he be a judge, why should he make an appraisal, and why should he sit in that seat? All of a sudden, all the players he had judged before stood up to protest, and all kinds of long essays came out. Mr. He fell from the highest mountain to the altar almost overnight. It is very sad. In fact, people all have this mentality. They always have a kind of worship for those who are superior. But if one day they find out that the person they worship is not at all, but just an ordinary person, they will even make the same mistakes and do the same things. If something is not in line with what they have in mind, the anger and feeling of being deceived will turn into a backlash that will make people unable to resist. Jin has not been having a good time recently. Because of Lao's relationship, his position has also been removed. The entire Fragrance Industry Association is not only a matter of major replacement, but also whether it can continue to be maintained is hard to say. First of all, Mr. He's deceptive behavior has aroused public dissatisfaction, and secondly, there happened to be a dispute about the professional qualification certificate before, and now Soo-yeon's cooperation with international big names is simply a slap in the face. As I have said before, there is no such thing internationally, and there is no need to recognize such a book. Looking back now, the so-called professional qualification certificate is simply a threshold established by the Fragrance Industry Association itself. So, is this certificate really necessary? Soo-yeon's name has been frequently searched, even more so than her previous lawsuit with Luo Yuen-hang. What's more upsetting to her is that her name is inexplicably associated with Luo Yuen-hang. It's not anything special. It's mainly because some good people made a comparison between the past and the present, and then expressed their feelings on a daily basis. At first, Soo-yeon was accused of stealing other people's works, of plagiarism, of being a liar, etc. Now, one by one, they have become the most powerful irony in the face. And Luo Yuen-hang, from being the CEO of Wulan, to being shouted at by everyone, inexplicably transformed into the future new chairman of the Yoon family, and then became a prisoner of his subordinates. This earth-shaking change is really shocking. Worth recalling. Even TV might not dare to shoot it like this, let alone all of this is real. Many people have witnessed this series of processes. Looking back now, more and more people admire Soo-yeon. So, Soo-yeon and Luo Yuen-hang, Soo-yeon and Lao, Soo-yeon and Fragrance Industry Association, these have become hot words, and she alone occupies less than half of the hot search list. In order to avoid the heat, I had to stay at home and take a rest. I also cut off the phone calls and took a break. I don't know who is making the fuss, but some people are making noises and suggesting that I take over the Fragrance Industry Association. After all, it was she who pointed out the inside story and unspoken rules of this industry, and it was she who single-handedly overturned the entire industry. Industry awareness. As word spread, Soo-yeon has simply become a mythical figure in this industry, and the more I hear about it, the more magical it becomes. She was helpless. Whether it was negative or positive news, being on the hot search was not her original intention. At first, she just didn't want a piece of paper to prove her worth. If the industry association hadn't been aggressive towards her, they would have sued her. And they want her to withdraw from this circle, and she will not let the association get to where it is now. But she has nothing to regret. At his age, it is normal for his sense of smell to deteriorate. What's more, in their line of work, they use their noses a lot. Overuse is also a problem, not to mention other external factors. Factors affected. It's just that after finding out, he can completely withdraw and keep a good reputation, but he doesn't know why he still occupies that position, and he doesn't even care about other descendants who may be affected by him. Is it really true that in the face of power and money, everything else is nothing? I heard that Mr. He has hardly left home recently. After all, there are so many scoldings outside. At his age, he probably can't stand any stimulation anymore, so he might as well just stay at home safely. However, this incident has caused a lot of damage to him. The impact is probably irreversible. She hasn't met Lao, so she doesn't know what he thinks. She just thinks that if there is a chance to meet again, she really wants to ask him, does he think it is worth it? I'm sorry, Miss Soo is very busy recently and it's not convenient to answer your call. If you have any business cooperation, please leave a message. Thank you. Arian answered the phone for her on the side because she had turned off her personal number and almost all business calls were received. Here she comes. She took a sip of honey to moisten her throat and felt helpless. I was really thirsty for this call recently. If you really become the president of the association, will I be exhausted to death? She complained with emotion. Soo-yoon smiled and said, no. Because I won't be the president. But now that the Fragrance Industry Association has become like this, they say that only if you become the president can you convince the public and restore everyone's confidence and trust in the association. If you don't do this, the association will probably be disbanded. End of this chapter.